what are the various problems that is, or damage that is occurring to our environment / planet, and how severe is it? In other words, provide us, the audience, with a snapshot of the current state of our planet, and also why our food choices matter, or that could be a separate question, but give us a snapshot of our current state of the planet, and then you could also comment on why our food choices matter.
Well, do you mind if I give a snapshot?
Yeah, go for it.
So basically, this is the easiest way to understand it. Globally, we're in overshoot mode, meaning we're using more of our planet's resources than what it can provide. Globally, we're using 2 Earths to sustain us and the resources upon which. In the United States, it's about 5.1, so it's a little over 5 Earths that we're using to support our lifestyle. Now, how that translates into the damage we're doing is that there's various systems and boundaries that, and I call it global depletion. There are a number of scientists, 28 scientists, decided to call it a few years ago, planetary boundaries. And they identified 9 of them, which are relatively accurate, beyond which, if we pass over those boundaries, those would be tipping points. It would increase the risk for human existence the way we know it, and likely irreversible in our lifetime. And all 9 boundaries are interconnected. So we're already past, as of today, and this, I'll come back to answer your first question again, Stephen, because there's still a way to reverse some of this, and live in more harmony in a healthier way. But we've already passed 6 of the boundaries where the tipping points are gone. One of them is with biogeochemical flows like phosphorus and nitrogen. And another one is biosphere integrity, which is biodiversity and extinctions. Like, we can't get back the extinctions that are occurring today at up to 10,000 times the background rate, which has been for 10 million years. Another one is land use changes. Can't get back, thousands-year-old forests. Another one is with novel entities such as nanomaterials, microplastics and chemical pollution. We passed that boundary. And another one's with ocean acidification. Our oceans since 1800s have become 30% more acidic. And so that's 10 times faster than we've seen for the past 56 million years. We're losing soil, which is the fabric which keeps us all together. About a third to a half of all of our soil on Earth has been degraded. Some estimates think that by the year 2050, we'll be at 95% soil degradation. And our oceans are being depleted. I mean, depending on which scientists that are biased because of the fishing industry, typically right now, about 89% of all fish stocks that are recognized that have been fished in the past are either overfished or are being overfished or past their maximum. And so we have all these different systems that actually support us as humans, and it supports every other species on life, and we're all interconnected in this very delicate web, and we disrupted that web, and there is a way to get it back, but and I want to make it really clear right at the onset here that it's not all related to climate change. For instance, our oceans, the demise of our oceans has, in terms of the biodiversity loss and the ecosystems that have been disrupted, have really almost nothing to do with climate change. We'll still have disruption of our oceans regardless of climate change. Climate change is an exacerbator, and we don't want to understate the focus of climate change, but it's an exacerbator. It takes events that already exist today and makes them worse. Okay, and so same with freshwater scarcity. 3.6 billion people right now live in a considered water scarce area where they have at least a month out of every year where they don't have water. And so all these different systems are interconnected, and there is hope because we can turn all this around because they all are interconnected and damaged by the most critical driving force of all this is animal agriculture. It's livestock on land and fishing in our oceans. And so if we stopped all that entirely today, all of this could, even though we've passed some tipping points, we could create still harmony enough where we would save the rest of the species left on Earth that we didn't create extinctions for, and we could create balance for future generations. So there is hope. But that I think summarizes things pretty well in terms of that's a little bit larger than a snapshot, but I think that's a good depiction.
Yeah, I mean, I have started something called the Vegan World 2026 project. And that's based on the calculation that at the rate at which we are wiping out wild vertebrates, we cannot do that beyond 2026. They're going to be pretty much all wiped out if we do this. So this is why we need to create a vegan world by 2026. So that's why I started that as a goal that we need to be working towards. It's a short-term goal, so which means that we know how fast we need to get it going. And then to achieve that, we are creating like intermediate goals, like, let's feed everybody healthy food on one day. That's like an intermediate goal. And when we organize to do that, to me, that is like, the Vegan World 2026 is like the Khadi movement that Gandhi started. And World Food Healers Day, which we are going to be announcing on the 24th of April, would be like the salt march that Gandhi did. He marched over to the ocean and made salt to defy the British. In the same way, we can actually feed every human being on the planet a healthy meal. And that'll basically change the mindset of the food system that we have today. Because currently, the food system is deliberately starving 800 million people and feeding unhealthy food to billions of people so that they get sick, so that we can make money off their bodies. That's the way the food system is set up right now. And so we need to start giving everyone access to healthy food and make it like a basic human right. And so can we not do that on one day? If we cannot even do that on one day, let's stop pretending that we know what to do. So this is why I say it's like a challenge, but at the same time, it's an achievable challenge. And when we organize to achieve meet a challenge like that, we automatically create the infrastructure that we need for the new system that we have to build.
Richard did an excellent job of summarizing the list of problems we face as we deplete the world. I think one that he left out was sea level rise. From global warming, we're going to face the glaciers melting and the sea levels rising and threatening coastal cities around the world. So all these problems that Richard elaborated upon and sea level rise, when you think about it, it can be terribly depressing, and it seems like an almost impossible challenge. I know a few people in the world who understand it as well as Richard and Sailesh, and I've known Sailesh for the last year, and I could tell you that I probably don't know anybody more optimistic than Dr. Sailesh Rao. So it seems a contradiction. How could you understand all these things so well, see the depth and the scope of the problem, and be optimistic? Sailesh will tell you, well, it's a great time to be alive. We have this challenge to save humanity. And there's a way to do it. There's this Swiss Army knife of a transition, a global transition to the vegan diet, solves so many of these problems if we can rewild the land that's currently grazing land, if we can protect the oceans that are being destroyed principally by industrial fishing, then this simple message of eating food that human beings are designed to eat that keeps us healthy can solve so many problems. So there's a pessimistic way to look at it, and there's an optimistic way to look at it, and it's healthier to look at it the optimistic way.
Thank you.
One quick thing, Stephen, I think to help clarify from what they just said is that, I couldn't agree more about having some sort of a spiritual enlightenment and collectiveness of a global movement. But I'm as optimistic as you can be, or I wouldn't be here. But I think you have to blend that with incentivizing penalties. I think there has to be policies in place because we're on very real timelines, and we can't forget that. It's different than it was 40 years ago when I was speaking, where we could have halted a few of these things then, but now, we have very distinctive timelines in all these areas of global depletion. So we have to keep moving forward with not only public awareness and education, but it is not a 1 day a week type of thing. So it is moving in the right direction to educate someone and to move them to at least 1 day a week of understanding and changing their diet to, a whole food, plant-based type diet. But it's also very important to add into the mix that we're on timelines. And it is a fine line of not wanting to create, panic, but I think Sailesh said it so well that, we have the power to change, I'm going to say a little differently, change our biosphere and we're changing the atmosphere and hydrosphere and cryosphere, but we also have the power to not only change it negatively, but to change it in a positive direction. But we have to do it. We have to do it now.